The rusty door of the old house creaked open, and there she stood, a man in an expensive black suit, his shoes shining even in the dim light, froze in the doorway. His eyes went wide with shock. Before him, sitting on the dirty floor surrounded by empty cans and torn blankets, was a little black girl. She couldn't have been more than 7 years old. Her clothes were torn and covered in dirt. Her hair was wild and tangled. But what made the man's heart stop was her eyes. They looked up at him with fear, hope, and something else he couldn't quite name. Behind her, the walls of the house were black with mold. The ceiling had holes that let in streams of dusty light. Rats scurried in the corners. This wasn't just an abandoned house. This was a nightmare. And somehow this child had been living here, alone. The girl opened her mouth to speak, but then something crashed upstairs. Both of them jumped. The man's face went pale. The girl's eyes filled with tears. What was up there? And how long had this child been trapped in this horror? But let me take you back to where this all started. Let me tell you about little Maya Johnson and how she ended up in that terrible place. We share powerful stories that uncover hidden truths and challenge perspectives. Subscribe to stay updated, share to keep others safe, and comment where you're watching from. Maya was 6 years old when her world fell apart. She lived with her grandmother, Betty Johnson, in a small neighborhood on the edge of town. Maya's mother had left when she was a baby, and her father was never in the picture. But that was okay because Grandma Betty loved Maya more than anything in the world. Grandma Betty worked at a laundry service during the day. She would wash and fold clothes for hours, but she never complained. Every evening, she would come home with tired feet and aching hands, but her face would light up the moment she saw Maya. They would cook dinner together, nothing fancy, just rice and beans or spaghetti. Then they would sit on their small couch and Grandma Betty would read Maya stories until she fell asleep. Their house was small and old, but it was clean and filled with love. Grandma Betty always said that a house becomes a home when there's love inside it. Maya believed her. The walls had pictures that Maya drew at school. The kitchen always smelled like the vanilla candles Grandma Betty loved. Maya's small bedroom had a bed with a pink blanket that Grandma Betty had sewn herself. Every night, Grandma Betty would tuck Maya in, kiss her forehead, and say, "You are my sunshine, baby girl. Don't you ever forget that." Life wasn't easy, but they were happy. Maya went to Jefferson Elementary School where she loved art class the most. She would draw pictures of butterflies and rainbows and always put a smiling sun in the corner. Her teacher, Mrs. Peterson, would hang Maya's drawings on the classroom wall. Maya had friends too. There was Sophie, who had red pigtails and loved to play hopscotch. There was Marcus, who could run faster than anyone else during recess. And there was her best friend, Lily, who shared her sandwich with Maya every day because she knew Maya's lunch was sometimes just a small apple and crackers. But then, everything changed. It started one morning when Grandma Betty didn't wake up on time. Maya got dressed for school by herself and went to Grandma Betty's room. The door was closed. Maya knocked softly. "Grandma, it's time to wake up." There was no answer. Maya knocked again, louder this time. "Grandma, are you okay?" Still nothing. Maya's little heart started beating faster. She opened the door slowly. Grandma Betty was in bed, but something was wrong. She was breathing, but it sounded strange, like she was struggling for air. Her face looked gray, and she couldn't open her eyes properly. Maya ran to the neighbor's house, Mrs. Chun, an old woman who lived alone with 3 cats. Maya banged on the door with her small fists. "Mrs. Chun, Mrs. Chun, please help. Something's wrong with Grandma." Mrs. Chun opened the door in her bathrobe, took one look at Maya's terrified face, and immediately called for an ambulance. Within minutes, the ambulance arrived with flashing lights and loud sirens. 2 men in uniforms rushed into Grandma Betty's bedroom with a big bed on wheels. They put Grandma Betty on it and rolled her out to the ambulance. Maya tried to follow, but one of the men knelt down and said gently, "You can't come with us, sweetie. But don't worry, we're going to take good care of your grandma." Maya watched as the ambulance drove away, its sirens screaming down the street. Mrs. Chun put her hand on Maya's shoulder. "Come inside, dear. Let's get you some breakfast. But Maya couldn't eat. She just sat at Mrs. Chen's table, staring at her hands, wondering if she would ever see Grandma Betty again. That day, Maya didn't go to school. Mrs. Chen made phone calls, trying to find out what was happening. Finally, in the afternoon, a woman from social services came to Mrs. Chen's house. Her name was Miss Rodriguez, and she had a clipboard and a tired smile. "Hello, Maya," she said softly. "Your grandmother is very sick. She's at the hospital, but she's going to be there for a long time. We need to find a place for you to stay while she gets better." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "Can't I stay with Mrs. Chun?" Mrs. Chun looked sad. "I'm sorry, honey. I'm too old to take care of a child. I can barely take care of myself and my cats." Miss Rodriguez wrote something on her clipboard. "We're looking for relatives, Maya. Is there anyone else in your family? An aunt? An uncle? A cousin?" Maya shook her head. Grandma Betty was all she had. Miss Rodriguez sighed. "Then we'll need to place you in foster care temporarily until your grandmother recovers." The word foster care sounded scary to Maya, but she didn't know what else to do. She just nodded. That evening, Miss Rodriguez took Maya to a house across town. It belonged to a couple named Mr. and Mrs. Patterson. They already had 4 other foster kids staying with them. The house was crowded and noisy. Maya was given a small bed in a room she had to share with 2 other girls. They weren't mean to her, but they weren't friendly either. Everyone seemed to mind their own business. Mrs. Patterson gave Maya some chicken and rice for dinner, but Maya could barely eat. All she could think about was Grandma Betty lying in a hospital bed somewhere, alone and sick. Days turned into weeks. Maya went to a new school that was closer to the Patterson house. She didn't have any friends there. During lunch, she would sit alone at a table in the corner, picking at her food and fighting back tears. At night, she would lie in her bed and whisper to herself, "You are my sunshine, baby girl. Don't you ever forget that." Just like Grandma Betty used to say. Miss Rodriguez visited Maya a few times to check on her. "Your grandmother is still in the hospital," she would say, "but the doctors are doing everything they can." Maya would nod, but she could see the worry in Miss Rodriguez's eyes. She knew something was wrong, even if no one would tell her the truth. Then one day, about 2 months after Grandma Betty went to the hospital, Miss Rodriguez came to the Patterson house with the saddest look Maya had ever seen. Maya knew before Miss Rodriguez even spoke. "Maya, sweetheart," Miss Rodriguez said, kneeling down so she was eye level with the little girl. "Your grandmother passed away yesterday. Her heart was very tired, and it just stopped working. I'm so sorry." Maya didn't cry right away. She just stood there, feeling like someone had reached inside her chest and pulled out her heart. Grandma Betty was gone. Forever. There would be no more bedtime stories. No more vanilla candles. No more, "You are my sunshine, baby girl." Maya was truly alone in the world now. The funeral was small. Just Maya, Miss Rodriguez, Mrs. Chan, and a few people from Grandma Betty's work. Maya wore a black dress that Mrs. Patterson had bought for her. She stood in front of the casket, looking at Grandma Betty's peaceful face, and finally, the tears came. They poured down her cheeks like a river, and she couldn't stop them. Mrs. Chun held her hand and cried too. "She loved you so much, Maya," Mrs. Chun whispered. "Never forget that." After the funeral, Maya's life became a blur. Miss Rodriguez explained that since there were no relatives to take care of Maya, she would have to stay in foster care. But the Patterson house was temporary. They couldn't keep her forever. Over the next few months, Maya was moved from house to house. First, she went to live with a single woman named Miss Harper who had a small apartment and a yappy dog. Miss Harper was nice enough, but she worked night shifts at a diner and was always tired. Maya felt like she was in the way. After 3 months, Miss Harper said she couldn't handle having a child anymore, so Maya was moved again. This time, she went to live with a family called the Hendersons. They had 3 kids of their own, all boys, and they were wild and loud. The boys weren't mean to Maya, but they ignored her mostly. Mrs. Henderson tried her best, but she was overwhelmed. One day, Maya accidentally broke a lamp while trying to reach a book on a high shelf. Mrs. Henderson didn't yell, but Maya could see the stress in her eyes. 2 weeks later, Miss Rodriguez came to pick Maya up again. "I'm sorry, Maya," Miss Rodriguez said in the car. "Finding the right home takes time." But Maya had stopped hoping for a right home. She just felt numb. By the time Maya was 7 years old, she had been in 5 different foster homes. Each time, she tried to be good. She tried to be quiet and helpful. She did her chores without being asked. She never complained. But somehow, it was never enough. The families always had reasons why they couldn't keep her. Too many kids already. Not enough money. Moving to another state. The reasons didn't matter to Maya anymore. She had learned a painful lesson. Nobody wanted her. Then came the Thompsons. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson lived in a big house on the edge of town. It was a beautiful house with a large yard and a white fence. When Miss Rodriguez first brought Maya there, Maya thought maybe this could be the place. Maybe this could be home. Mrs. Thompson seemed nice at first. She had a big smile and showed Maya to a pretty bedroom with yellow walls. "This will be your room, sweetie," Mrs. Thompson said. "I hope you like it." For the first few weeks, everything seemed fine. Mr. Thompson worked a lot, so Maya didn't see him much. Mrs. Thompson stayed home and seemed to enjoy having Maya around. She would make Maya breakfast and ask her about school. But slowly, things started to change. Mrs. Thompson began drinking wine during the day. At first, it was just a glass with lunch. Then it was 2 glasses. Then 3. By the evening, Mrs. Thompson would be stumbling around the house, her words slurred and her eyes unfocused. Mr. Thompson started coming home later and later. When he was home, he and Mrs. Thompson would fight. Maya would lie in her bed, covering her ears, trying not to hear the yelling. One night, the fighting got so bad that Mr. Thompson threw a plate against the wall. It shattered into 100 pieces. Maya heard Mrs. Thompson crying. The next morning, Mr. Thompson was gone. He had left. Mrs. Thompson didn't come out of her bedroom for 2 days. Maya made herself cereal for breakfast and sandwiches for lunch. She went to school and came back, but the house felt cold and empty. When Mrs. Thompson finally came out of her room, her eyes were red and puffy. She looked at Maya like she was seeing her for the first time. "You need to go," Mrs. Thompson said quietly. "I can't do this anymore. I can't take care of you. I can barely take care of myself." Maya didn't argue. She just packed her few belongings into a small backpack and waited on the porch for Miss Rodriguez to come get her. But Miss Rodriguez didn't come. Maya waited for hours. The sun began to set. She knocked on the door, but Mrs. Thompson had locked it. Through the window, Maya could see Mrs. Thompson on the couch with a bottle in her hand, staring at nothing. Maya knocked harder. "Mrs. Thompson? Please let me in. It's getting dark." But Mrs. Thompson didn't move. Maya sat down on the porch steps, hugging her backpack, and waited. Night fell. The streetlights came on. Maya was cold and scared, but she didn't know what else to do. She thought about walking to find help, but she didn't know where to go. She was about to start walking anyway when a car pulled up. But it wasn't Miss Rodriguez. It was a man Maya had never seen before. He was tall and had a rough face with a short beard. He got out of the car and walked up to the porch. "You Maya?" he asked. Maya nodded slowly, her heart pounding. "Miss Rodriguez sent me. I'm Dave. I'm going to take you to your new place." Something about Dave made Maya uncomfortable, but what choice did she have? She got into his car, clutching her backpack tightly. Dave drove for a long time way past the part of town Maya knew. They went down roads that got narrower and bumpier. The houses they passed looked old and broken down. Some had boarded-up windows. Others had junk piled in the yards. Finally, Dave pulled up to a house that looked worse than all the others. The paint was peeling off. The roof sagged in the middle. Some of the windows were cracked or missing entirely. The yard was full of tall weeds and garbage. "This is it," Dave said, turning off the car. Maya stared at the house in horror. "This doesn't look like anyone lives here," she said quietly. Dave shrugged. "It's temporary. Come on." He got out and opened Maya's door. She followed him up the creaky porch steps. The front door wasn't even locked. Dave pushed it open, and a smell hit Maya like a punch. It was the smell of rot, mold, and something dead. Maya covered her nose. Inside, the house was dark and filthy. There was old furniture covered in dust. The walls had water stains and black mold growing in the corners. The floor was covered in dirt, leaves, and trash. Dave led Maya to a small room at the back of the house. There was a dirty mattress on the floor with a torn blanket. "You'll stay here," Dave said. "Someone will come check on you." And then, before Maya could ask any questions, Dave turned and walked out. She heard his car start and drive away. Maya stood in the middle of the horrible room, tears streaming down her face. This couldn't be real. This had to be a nightmare. But it wasn't. She was truly alone now, in a house that felt more like a tomb than a home. Outside, she could hear strange noises. Dogs barking, something scratching on the walls, the wind howling through the broken windows. That night, Maya curled up on the dirty mattress, using her backpack as a pillow. She whispered to herself, "You are my sunshine, baby girl. Don't you ever forget that." But for the first time, the words didn't bring her comfort. They just made her cry harder. Where was Miss Rodriguez? Why had she been brought to this awful place? And would anyone ever come to save her? Days passed and no one came. Maya survived on the little bit of food Dave had left in a plastic bag. There were some crackers, 2 cans of soup that she couldn't open because she didn't have a can opener, and a bottle of water. When the water ran out, Maya drank from the rusty faucet in the bathroom, even though it tasted terrible and sometimes came out brown. She was so hungry, so thirsty, so scared. At night, she would hear rats running through the walls. Once, she woke up to find one sitting on the edge of her mattress, staring at her with its beady little eyes. She screamed, and it ran away, but after that, she barely slept. If you're enjoying this story, please subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps us motivated and reminds us that our stories are making a difference in people's lives. Maya lost track of how many days she'd been there. 5? 6? A week? She didn't know. She was too weak to move much. She just lay on the mattress, staring at the moldy ceiling, wondering if this was where she would die. Alone. Forgotten. Just like the house itself. And then, just as the sun was starting to set on what might have been her 8th or 9th day in that nightmare, Maya heard something that made her heart jump. Footsteps. Someone was walking up the porch steps. The front door creaked open. Maya's whole body tensed. Was it Dave coming back? Was it someone who would finally help her? Or was it someone even worse? The footsteps got closer. They were slow and careful. Whoever it was, they were walking through the house, looking around. Maya wanted to call out, but her voice wouldn't work. She was too scared, too weak. The footsteps stopped right outside her door. Maya held her breath. The door swung open, and there, silhouetted against the dying light, stood a man in an expensive black suit. His shoes were shiny and clean, completely out of place in this horrible house. The man stepped into the room and froze when he saw her. Their eyes met. Maya saw shock and disbelief on his face. The man opened his mouth, but before he could speak, there was a loud crash from upstairs. Something heavy had fallen or been knocked over. The man's eyes went wide. Maya felt fresh tears spill down her cheeks. They both stared at the ceiling. The crash echoed through the silent house. And then they heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Coming from the floor above them. Someone else was in this house. Someone who had been up there the whole time. Maya started shaking. The man in the suit took a step back. And in that moment, both of them realized the same terrible truth. Whatever was upstairs had known Maya was here all along. The footsteps above them stopped. The whole house seemed to hold its breath. Maya watched as the man in the suit slowly looked up at the ceiling, then back down at her. His face had gone pale, but there was something else in his eyes now. Not just fear. Determination. He held up one finger to his lips, telling Maya to be quiet. Then he carefully reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his phone. His hands were shaking as he tried to unlock it. Maya could see the screen light up his face in the growing darkness. He looked at it, frowned, and shook his head. No signal. Of course, there was no signal. This neighborhood was so forgotten that even the phone companies had given up on it. Another sound came from upstairs. Not footsteps this time. Something being dragged across the floor. Slow and heavy. Scrapey, scrapey, scrapey. The man put his phone away and whispered to Maya, "Can you walk? Can you stand up?" Maya wasn't sure. She hadn't stood up in days. She had been too weak, too scared. But something about this man made her want to try. She nodded and slowly pushed herself up from the mattress. Her legs felt like jelly. Her head spun. The man quickly moved forward and caught her before she fell. "I've got you," he whispered. "We need to get out of here. Right now." He lifted Maya up into his arms. She was so light, he thought. Too light. When was the last time this child had eaten a real meal? Maya wrapped her thin arms around his neck and buried her face in his shoulder. He smelled like cologne and clean clothes. Safe things. Normal things. Things from a world that felt a million miles away from this rotting nightmare. The man moved toward the door, stepping carefully to avoid making noise. But the floorboards were old and weak. Every step made them creak and groan. He winced with each sound, glancing up at the ceiling. The dragging sound upstairs had stopped. Whoever or whatever was up there was listening now. Listening to them. They made it to the hallway. The front door was maybe 20 feet away. Freedom was right there. The man started moving faster, no longer caring about the noise. He just wanted to get this child out of this house of horrors. But then, from somewhere above them, a voice called out. "Who's down there?" It was a man's voice, rough and angry. I said, "Who's down there?" The man carrying Maya didn't answer. He broke into a run, his expensive shoes pounding on the dirty floor. Behind them, they heard heavy footsteps racing across the upstairs floor. Someone was running to the stairs. The man burst through the front door and ran down the porch steps so fast he almost tripped. Maya clung to him, her eyes squeezed shut. She heard the voice from inside the house yelling now, shouting words she couldn't make out. The man ran to a shiny black car parked on the street. A fancy car, the kind Maya had only seen in movies. He yanked open the back door and gently but quickly set Maya inside. "Lie down," he said. "Stay down and don't look up. No matter what." Maya obeyed, curling up on the soft leather seat. It felt like a cloud compared to the dirty mattress she'd been sleeping on. The man jumped into the driver's seat and started the engine. It roared to life. Through the car window, Maya could see the front door of the house slam open. A figure stood there in the doorway. A big man with a dirty tank top and wild hair. It wasn't Dave. This was someone else. Someone who had been hiding upstairs the whole time Maya had been there. The man was yelling something and pointing at the car. The man in the suit didn't wait. He hit the gas pedal and the car shot forward, tires squealing. Maya felt herself pressed against the seat as they sped away. They drove for several minutes in silence. The man kept checking his rearview mirror, making sure no one was following them. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. What had he just stumbled into? He had gone to that house because he was thinking about buying the property. It was part of a group of abandoned houses his company was considering tearing down to build something new. He had wanted to see it for himself before making a decision. He never in a million years expected to find a child living there. Living. No, not living. Surviving. Barely surviving. After he was sure they weren't being followed, the man pulled over into the parking lot of a gas station. The bright lights felt harsh after the darkness of that house. He turned around to look at Maya. She was still lying down on the back seat, her eyes wide and frightened. "It's okay now," he said softly. "You're safe. I promise you're safe." Maya slowly sat up. She looked at the man's face properly for the first time. He had kind eyes, she thought. Tired but kind. He looked like he was maybe 40 years old. His hair was dark with a few gray streaks. His suit was expensive, but now it had dirt on it from carrying her. "What's your name?" the man asked gently. Maya's voice came out as a whisper. "Maya. Maya Johnson." The man nodded. "I'm Robert. Robert Hayes." "Maya, I need you to tell me the truth. How long have you been in that house? Maya thought about it. She honestly didn't know. Maybe a week? Or more? I don't know. I lost track. Robert's jaw tightened. Who brought you there? Maya told him about Dave. About Mrs. Thompson locking her out. About waiting on the porch. About Dave saying Miss Rodriguez had sent him. As she talked, Robert's face got darker and darker with anger. Not anger at Maya. Anger at what had been done to her. Maya, I don't think Miss Rodriguez sent that man, Robert said carefully. I think you were taken. Kidnapped. The word made Maya's blood run cold. Kidnapped. Like in the news stories. Like in the warnings teachers gave at school. She had been kidnapped, and she hadn't even realized it. We need to call the police, Robert said, pulling out his phone again. Now that they were at the gas station, he had a signal. But before he could dial, Maya grabbed his arm. Wait, she said. What if they don't believe me? What if they send me back? What if they find me and... She couldn't finish the sentence. Robert saw the terror in her eyes. He put down his phone and took a deep breath. Nobody is going to hurt you, Maya. I won't let that happen. But we need to get you to the police so they can help you. So they can find Miss Rodriguez and figure out what happened. Maya nodded slowly. She knew he was right, but she was so scared. Robert could see her shaking. First, he said, let's get you some food. When was the last time you ate? Maya thought about it. Yesterday, I think. I had some crackers. But they were the last ones. Robert started the car again. There's a diner just down the street. Let's get you a real meal and then we'll figure everything out. Okay? Maya nodded. As they drove the short distance to the diner, Maya looked out the window at the normal world going by. People pumping gas. Kids riding bikes. Someone walking a dog. Regular life. She had forgotten what regular life looked like. The diner was bright and warm inside. A waitress with a friendly smile showed them to a booth. Robert slid in on one side, and Maya slid in on the other. The waitress handed them menus, but she gave Maya a strange look. Maya knew why. She was filthy. Her clothes were torn and stained. Her hair was a tangled mess. She probably smelled bad too. The waitress opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, but Robert gave her a look that stopped her. She'll have a cheeseburger, fries, and a chocolate milkshake, Robert said. And I'll have coffee. Black. The waitress wrote it down and walked away, glancing back at Maya with concern. When the food came, Maya ate like she had never seen food before. The burger was the most delicious thing she had ever tasted. The fries were hot and salty and perfect. The milkshake was cold and sweet and made her brain freeze in the best way. Robert watched her eat, and his heart broke a little more with each bite. This child had been starving, abandoned, left to die in that rotting house. Who could do such a thing? When Maya finished eating, Robert finally made the call to the police. 2 police officers arrived at the diner 15 minutes later. One was a tall woman with her hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her badge said Officer Martinez. The other was a shorter man with glasses and a gentle face. His badge said Officer Brooks. They slid into the booth next to Robert and Maya, and Officer Martinez pulled out a small notebook. Hi there, sweetheart, she said to Maya with a soft smile. My name is Officer Martinez. Can you tell me what happened to you? Maya told her story again. About Grandma Betty dying. About the foster homes. About Mrs. Thompson and Dave and the horrible house. As she talked, Officer Martinez wrote everything down while Officer Brooks listened carefully, his face getting more and more serious. When Maya finished, Officer Martinez reached across the table and gently touched her hand. You were so brave, Maya. So incredibly brave. We're going to figure this out. Okay? Maya nodded, but she felt tears coming again. She was tired of crying, but she couldn't help it. Officer Brooks pulled out his radio and spoke into it quietly. Maya heard him say words like possible kidnapping and child welfare and immediate investigation. It all sounded scary and official. Robert sat next to Maya, and she was grateful he was there. He felt like the only solid thing in a world that kept shifting and changing underneath her. After Officer Brooks finished with his radio, he looked at Robert. "Sir, can you tell us exactly what you were doing at that property?" Robert explained about his real estate company, about how he was considering buying the abandoned houses in that neighborhood, about how he had gone to inspect the property at dusk and found Maya inside. "Did you see anyone else in or around the property?" Officer Martinez asked. Robert hesitated, then nodded. "When we were leaving, a man came out of the house. He was big, rough-looking. He yelled at us, but I didn't stop to find out what he wanted. I just got Maya out of there as fast as I could." Officer Martinez and Officer Brooks exchanged a look. "Can you describe him?" Robert did his best, describing the man's wild hair and dirty tank top. Officer Brooks wrote it all down. "We'll send officers to that house right now," he said. "If anyone's still there, we'll find them." Officer Martinez turned back to Maya. "Sweetie, do you remember the man who brought you to that house? The one you said was named Dave." Maya nodded. "Can you describe what he looked like?" Maya tried her best. She said he was tall with a short beard and a rough face. She said he drove an old car, but she couldn't remember what color it was. Everything had been so dark and scary. Officer Martinez wrote it all down. "You're doing great, Maya. Really great." Then Officer Martinez asked the question Maya had been dreading. "Maya, do you know the name of your social worker? You said Miss Rodriguez." Maya nodded eagerly. "Yes, Miss Rodriguez. She was taking care of me. She found all my foster homes." Officer Brooks picked up his radio again and spoke into it. "We need to locate a social worker, last name Rodriguez, working in the foster system, possibly connected to a missing child case." There was static, then a voice replied. Officer Brooks listened, then his face changed. He looked at Officer Martinez, and something passed between them, something that made Maya's stomach hurt. "What?" Robert asked, noticing their expressions. "What is it?" Officer Brooks put down his radio slowly. "There are 3 social workers named Rodriguez in the county system. We're checking with all of them now. But," he paused, choosing his words carefully, "but none of them have reported a missing child. If Maya was really in the system, if she was really being moved between foster homes, there should be records. There should be people looking for her." The words hung in the air like a dark cloud. Robert's face went hard. "What are you saying?" he asked, though Maya could tell he already knew the answer. Officer Martinez spoke gently, looking at Maya. "Sweetie, I think someone might have tricked you. I don't think you were ever really in the foster system at all. I think after your grandmother died, someone took you and made you think they were helping you, but really they were." She didn't finish. She didn't need to. Maya understood. She had been stolen, taken, and no one had been looking for her because no one knew she was missing. The real Miss Rodriguez, whoever she was, probably had no idea Maya existed. The woman who had visited Maya in those early foster homes, the woman Maya thought was Miss Rodriguez, might have been fake too. Everything had been a lie. Maya felt like the floor had opened up beneath her. Her whole body started shaking. Robert moved closer and put his arm around her shoulders. "It's okay," he said, even though it wasn't okay at all. "You're safe now. That's what matters." But Maya didn't feel safe. She felt like she was falling through darkness with nothing to hold on to. If the foster homes had been fake, what did that mean? Had the Pattersons been real? Had Miss Harper and the Hendersons been real? Or had they all been part of some horrible plan? And if so, why? Why would anyone do this to her? Officer Brooks must have seen the questions in Maya's eyes because he leaned forward and spoke in a kind voice. "Maya, sometimes very bad people do things to hurt children. They take them away from where they should be and put them in places where no one will look for them. We don't know exactly what happened to you yet, but we're going to find out. We have detectives who are very good at figuring these things out." Officer Martinez nodded. "And in the meantime, we need to make sure you're somewhere safe. Somewhere real this time. If you're enjoying this story, please subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps us motivated and reminds us that our stories are making a difference in people's lives." "What happens to her now?" Robert asked. Officer Martinez checked her notebook. "We'll need to take her to the hospital first. Get her checked out by a doctor. Then we'll contact Child Protective Services, the real ones this time, and they'll find her a proper placement. The word placement made Maya's heart sink. Another strange house. Another family who didn't really want her. Another place where she would be alone. She grabbed Robert's sleeve. "Please don't leave me," she whispered. Robert looked down at her, and Maya saw something in his eyes. Pain, sadness, and something else. Decision. "I'll stay with you as long as I can," Robert promised. "I'm not going anywhere right now." Officer Martinez stood up. "We should get moving. The hospital is waiting for us." They all walked out to the parking lot. There were now 3 cars. Robert's fancy black car, and 2 police cruisers with their lights quietly flashing. Officer Martinez opened the back door of her cruiser. "Maya, you'll ride with us to the hospital, okay?" Maya looked back at Robert with panic in her eyes. He knelt down so he was at her level. "I'll follow right behind you in my car. Promise. You'll be able to see me the whole way." Maya nodded and climbed into the back of the police car. Officer Brooks got in the driver's seat and Officer Martinez got in the passenger seat. As they pulled out of the parking lot, Maya turned around and looked through the back window. Robert's black car was right behind them, just like he promised. She could see his face through the windshield. He gave her a small wave. She waved back. The drive to the hospital took about 20 minutes. Maya watched the city go by outside her window. They passed houses with lights on inside. She could see families through the windows. Parents and children sitting together, watching TV, eating dinner, being normal. Being together. Maya wondered if she would ever have that again. A real home. A real family. Someone who actually wanted her. When they arrived at the hospital, Robert parked right next to the police car and got out. He walked with Maya and the officers through the automatic doors into the bright, sterile emergency room. A nurse with kind eyes and purple scrubs came over immediately. "This is Maya Johnson," Officer Martinez explained. "She's been living in an abandoned house for possibly over a week with little food or water. We need her checked out completely." The nurse's eyes went wide with shock and sadness, but she quickly put on a professional face. "Of course. Come with me, sweetie." The nurse started to lead Maya away toward the examination rooms, but Maya pulled back and looked at Robert. "You promised you wouldn't leave," she said, her voice breaking. Robert looked at the nurse. "Can I stay with her? Just until she feels comfortable?" The nurse looked at Officer Martinez, who nodded. "He found her. He's the only familiar face she has right now." The nurse smiled. "Of course. Come on back, both of you." They went into a small examination room with a bed covered in crinkly paper and posters on the walls about washing your hands and eating vegetables. The nurse took Maya's temperature and blood pressure and listened to her heart. A doctor came in, a woman with gray hair and glasses hanging on a chain around her neck. She examined Maya carefully, asking her questions about how she felt and where it hurt. Maya's stomach hurt from being so hungry for so long. Her throat hurt from the bad water. Her skin had rashes from the dirty mattress. The doctor wrote everything down with a frown on her face. "She's dehydrated and malnourished," the doctor finally said, looking at Officer Martinez. "But she's going to be okay. She's strong. Kids are resilient." She smiled at Maya. "You're a fighter, young lady." They gave Maya and 4 in her arm to give her fluids. It pinched going in, and Maya squeezed Robert's hand hard. He didn't complain. He just held her hand and told her she was doing great. After a while, Maya started to feel a little better. The fluids helped. The doctor gave her some crackers and juice, and told her to eat and drink slowly so she wouldn't get sick. While Maya was resting on the hospital bed, Officer Martinez got a call on her radio. She stepped out into the hallway to take it. When she came back, her face was grim. She gestured for Robert to step outside with her. Maya watched them through the window in the door. She could see them talking seriously, Officer Martinez shaking her head, Robert's face getting darker with anger. Something bad had happened. Something new. When Robert came back into the room, he tried to smile at Maya, but it didn't reach his eyes. "What's wrong?" Maya asked quietly. Robert hesitated. Robert sat down in the chair next to Maya's hospital bed and took a deep breath. The police went to that house, he said slowly. The one where I found you. Maya's heart started beating faster. And Robert looked at his hands. The man we saw, the one who came out yelling, he was gone. But they found things inside. Bad things. He didn't want to give her details. She was just a child. But Maya needed to know something. What kind of things? She whispered. Robert chose his words carefully. They found evidence that other people had been kept there too. Not just you. There were chains in the basement. Old mattresses in different rooms. The police think that house was being used to hide people. Maybe to hurt people. Maya felt cold all over. She had been so focused on her own misery, on being hungry and scared, that she never thought to explore the rest of the house. She never went upstairs where that man had been. She never went down to the basement. What if she had? What would she have found? What would have happened to her? The police have started a big investigation, Robert continued. They're looking for the man who ran away. They're trying to find Dave, the one who brought you there. And they're looking into all those foster homes you stayed in to figure out which ones were real and which ones weren't. Maya felt tears sliding down her cheeks again. Why would someone do this? Why me? Robert shook his head. I don't know, Maya. Sometimes people do terrible things, and there's no good reason for it. But what I do know is that you survived. You're here. You're safe. And we're going to make sure you stay safe. A knock on the door made them both look up. A woman walked in carrying a briefcase. She was younger than Robert, maybe 30, with brown hair pulled into a ponytail and a no-nonsense expression on her face. Hello, she said with a professional smile. My name is Jennifer Walsh. I'm with Child Protective Services. The real ones, she added, glancing at Officer Martinez who had followed her in. I'm here to talk about what happens next for Maya. Maya's stomach dropped. Here it was, the part where they sent her away again. Ms. Walsh pulled up a chair and opened her briefcase, pulling out some papers. Maya, I've been reading your file, or what little exists of it. Your grandmother, Betty Johnson, passed away 8 months ago. Is that correct? Maya nodded. After that, the trail goes cold. There's no record of you entering the foster system. No paperwork. Nothing. It's like you disappeared. Because she was taken, Robert said, his voice hard. Ms. Walsh nodded. Yes, it appears that way. Someone, we don't know who yet, intercepted Maya after her grandmother's death and created a fake foster care situation. The question is why. She looked at Maya with kind but serious eyes. Maya, I need to ask you something important. In any of those houses you stayed in, did anyone ever try to hurt you? Did anyone touch you in ways that made you uncomfortable? Did anyone take pictures of you? Maya thought hard. She remembered all the houses. The Pattersons with their 4 other kids. Miss Harper with her yappy dog. The Hendersons with their wild boys. Mrs. Thompson with her wine bottles. None of them had hurt her. They had ignored her or been too busy or too stressed. But they hadn't hurt her. No, Maya said quietly. They just didn't want me. Ms. Walsh wrote something down. That's actually good news, she said gently. It means whatever plan these people had for you, they didn't get a chance to carry it out. You escaped before anything worse could happen. But something had been nagging at Maya, something she couldn't quite put into words. Ms. Walsh, she said slowly, why did they move me so many times? Why all those different houses? Ms. Walsh exchanged a look with Officer Martinez. We're not entirely sure yet, but one theory is that they were trying to confuse things, make it harder to track you. Each time you moved, your trail got colder. If you had stayed in one place, someone might have noticed something was wrong. But by moving you around, keeping you isolated, they made you invisible. The word invisible hit Maya like a punch. That's exactly what she had become. Invisible. A ghost moving through houses where no one really saw her. Where no one asked questions. Where no one cared enough to wonder if something was wrong. But I'm not invisible anymore, Maya said, her voice stronger now. Robert found me. I'm here. People know about me now. Ms. Walsh smiled, a real smile this time. That's absolutely right, Maya. You're not invisible anymore. So what happens now? Robert asked. Ms. Walsh shuffled her papers. Well, that's what I need to discuss. Maya needs to be placed in a proper foster home while we continue the investigation and look for any possible relatives. I have a family that's been approved and has an opening. They're experienced with children who have been through trauma. Maya felt her chest tighten. Another strange house. Another family. More waiting to see if they would want her or send her away. Robert must have seen her face because he suddenly spoke up. What if I took her? Everyone in the room turned to look at him. Ms. Walsh blinked. I'm sorry, what? Robert sat up straighter. What if I became her foster parent? Temporarily, until this all gets sorted out. I'm the one who found her. She trusts me. And I. He paused, looking at Maya. I want to help her. Ms. Walsh looked skeptical. Mr. Hayes, with all due respect, you can't just decide to become a foster parent on the spot. There's a process. Background checks, home studies, training. It takes months. I know there's a process, Robert said, and I'm willing to go through all of it. But in the meantime, can't there be some kind of emergency arrangement? Just until the paperwork goes through. Ms. Walsh shook her head. It doesn't work that way. The system has rules for a reason. Officer Martinez, who had been quiet this whole time, cleared her throat. Actually, there might be a way. Everyone looked at her. Emergency kinship placement, she said. If a child has a strong connection to an adult, even a non-relative, and being separated would cause additional trauma, the court can grant temporary emergency custody while the full process is completed. Ms. Walsh frowned. That's typically for family friends or neighbors, people who already knew the child before the crisis. Officer Martinez shrugged. The law doesn't specifically say that. It says strong connection and preventing additional trauma. Maya has been through hell. She's finally found someone she feels safe with. Separating them now would be traumatic. Ms. Walsh looked at Maya. Is that true, Maya? Do you feel safe with Mr. Hayes? Maya nodded immediately. He promised he wouldn't leave me. He's the only one who kept a promise. The words hung in the air. Ms. Walsh closed her eyes for a moment, thinking. When she opened them, she let out a long breath. This is highly irregular. I could get in serious trouble for this. Robert leaned forward. Ms. Walsh, I own a real estate development company. I have no criminal record. I'm financially stable. I have a 4-bedroom house with plenty of space. I'm single, never married, no kids, but I have time and resources. All I'm asking for is a chance to help this child while you do your investigation and find out if she has any real family out there. Ms. Walsh looked at Maya again, really looked at her. She saw a little girl who had been abandoned by the world, who had survived things no child should survive, who was clinging to the one person who had shown her genuine kindness. Ms. Walsh had been doing this job for 7 years. She had seen a lot of kids fall through the cracks. Maybe, just maybe, she could prevent it from happening this time. All right, she finally said. I'll file for emergency temporary custody. But Mr. Hayes, understand this, you'll have social workers visiting regularly. You'll need to start the full foster parent application immediately. And if at any point we determine this isn't in Maya's best interest, she'll be removed. Are we clear? Robert nodded solemnly. Crystal clear. Maya felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Hope. Real hope. Maybe this was it. Maybe this was the beginning of something good instead of something terrible. Ms. Walsh pulled out more papers and started explaining what would happen next. There would be court tomorrow morning to make it official. Robert would need to sign dozens of forms. A social worker would visit his house to make sure it was suitable. Maya would need to start therapy to deal with her trauma. There would be meetings and check-ins and evaluations. It sounded overwhelming, but Maya didn't care. She wasn't going to another strange house with people who didn't want her. She was going with Robert. The doctor came back in to check on Maya one more time. You're doing much better, she said warmly. The 4 has done its job. You can go home tonight, but you need to take it easy. Eat small meals. Drink lots of water. And come back if you feel dizzy or sick. Home. The word felt strange and wonderful at the same time. The nurse removed the 4 from Maya's arm and put a small bandage over the spot. Officer Martinez said she would drive them to Robert's house and make sure everything was secure. Ms. Walsh said she would file the emergency paperwork tonight so it would be ready for court in the morning. As they prepared to leave the hospital, Maya slid off the bed. Her legs were still a little wobbly, but she could walk. Robert offered his hand, and she took it. Her small hand disappeared in his larger one, but it felt safe. Felt right. They walked through the hospital corridors, past nurses and patients and visitors, out into the cool night air. The parking lot was bright with streetlights. Officer Martinez led them to her police car. "I'll follow you to your house, Mr. Hayes," she said. Robert nodded and helped Maya into his black car. As they drove through the city, Maya looked out the window with different eyes than before. She wasn't being taken to another prison. She wasn't being abandoned. She was going to a real home, even if just temporarily, with someone who actually cared if she lived or died. The streets passed by in a blur of lights and shadows. Robert turned on some soft music, something classical and calm. "My house is about 20 minutes from here," he said. "It's in a quiet neighborhood. Good schools nearby. There's a park down the street." He was trying to make conversation, trying to make her feel comfortable. Maya appreciated it. "Robert," she said quietly, "why are you doing this? You don't even know me." Robert was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "When I was young, about 10 years old, my father left. Just walked out one day and never came back. My mother did her best, but she had to work 3 jobs to keep us fed. I was alone a lot. I know what it feels like to be invisible, Maya. I know what it feels like when the world forgets about you. When I saw you in that house, I saw myself. And I thought if someone had helped me back then, if someone had seen me and cared, maybe things would have been different. Maybe I wouldn't have spent so many years feeling lost." Maya didn't know what to say to that. She just squeezed his hand. They drove in comfortable silence for a while, and then Robert pulled into a driveway. Maya looked up at the house and gasped. It was beautiful. The house was 2 stories tall with cream-colored walls and dark green shutters. There were flower beds along the front, though most of the flowers had died with the coming of fall. A large oak tree stood in the front yard, its branches spreading wide like protective arms. Warm light glowed from the windows, making the whole house look welcoming and safe. Officer Martinez pulled up behind them and got out of her car. She looked at the house and nodded approvingly. "Nice place, Mr. Hayes." Robert unlocked the front door and held it open for Maya. She stepped inside and couldn't believe her eyes. The entryway had polished wooden floors and a small table with a vase of fresh flowers. To the left was a living room with comfortable-looking couches, a big television, and shelves full of books. To the right was a dining room with a table big enough for 8 people. Everything was clean and organized. It smelled like lemon cleaner and something else, something warm Maya couldn't quite identify. This was what a real home looked like. Officer Martinez walked through the house with them, checking the rooms. The kitchen was large with modern appliances and granite countertops. There was a small office filled with papers and a computer. Upstairs, there were 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. Robert opened the door to one of the bedrooms. "This was supposed to be a guest room," he said, "but I never really had guests. It's yours now if you want it." Maya walked into the room slowly. It had pale blue walls and a big window that looked out over the backyard. There was a bed with a white comforter, a dresser, a desk, and a bookshelf. It was simple but beautiful. Clean. Safe. Maya turned to Robert with tears in her eyes. "It's perfect," she whispered. Officer Martinez smiled. "I think Maya will be very comfortable here. I'll let Ms. Walsh know that the home is suitable." She looked at Robert seriously. "Remember, Mr. Hayes, this is a big responsibility. Maya has been through significant trauma. She'll need patience, understanding, and probably professional help." Robert nodded. "I understand. I'll do whatever it takes." Officer Martinez knelt down to Maya's level. "Maya, if you ever feel unsafe or uncomfortable here, you call me. Okay? Or you tell Ms. Walsh when she visits. Your safety is the most important thing." Maya nodded. She understood that Officer Martinez was trying to protect her, but she already felt safer here than she had felt anywhere since Grandma Betty died. After Officer Martinez left, Robert and Maya stood in the hallway, looking at each other. The reality of the situation was starting to sink in. A few hours ago, they were strangers. Now they were living together. It was strange and awkward and wonderful all at once. If you're enjoying this story, please subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps us motivated and reminds us that our stories are making a difference in people's lives. Are you hungry? Robert asked. The doctor said you should eat small meals. Maya realized she was actually hungry again. The food at the diner had worn off. Yes, please. They went downstairs to the kitchen. Robert opened the refrigerator and stared at its contents with a puzzled expression. I'm not really sure what kids eat, he admitted. I usually just have frozen dinners or takeout. Maya looked inside the fridge. There were eggs, some vegetables, milk, cheese, and not much else. I can eat anything, she said quietly. I'm not picky. Robert pulled out the eggs and cheese. How about scrambled eggs and toast? That's simple enough, even I can't mess it up. He cooked while Maya sat at the kitchen table watching him. Felt surreal. Just this morning, she had been lying on a dirty mattress in a rotting house, thinking she might die there. Now she was sitting in a beautiful kitchen, watching a kind man make her dinner. Life could change so fast. Sometimes for the worse, but sometimes, miraculously, for the better. The eggs were a little overcooked and the toast was slightly burned. But Maya didn't care. It was warm food made by someone who cared if she was hungry. That made it delicious. After dinner, Robert showed Maya where everything was. The bathroom with towels and soap. The closet where he kept extra blankets. The thermostat if she got cold. Tomorrow we'll go shopping and get you some clothes and things you need, he said. But for tonight, I think I have an old t-shirt you can sleep in. He found a soft gray t-shirt that was enormous on Maya, but it was clean and comfortable. Maya took a shower in the bathroom, her first real shower in over a week. The hot water felt like heaven. She scrubbed away the dirt and grime, watching it swirl down the drain. When she finally turned off the water, she felt like a different person. Clean. Human. She put on the oversized t-shirt and looked at herself in the mirror. Her face was thin and her eyes still looked haunted. But there was something else there now too. A spark of life that had almost gone out. She brushed her teeth with a new toothbrush Robert had found for her and combed through her tangled hair as best she could. When she came out of the bathroom, Robert was waiting in the hallway. I put some fresh sheets on your bed, he said. And I found an extra blanket in case you get cold. Do you need anything else? Maya shook her head. They walked to her new bedroom together. The bed looked so soft and inviting. Maya climbed in and Robert pulled the blanket up to her chin. It reminded her of Grandma Betty tucking her in, and the memory made her throat tight with sadness. Robert must have seen something in her face because he sat down on the edge of the bed. Maya, I know I'm not your grandmother. I know I can't replace her. But I want you to know that you're not alone anymore. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. Maya looked up at him. You promise? You really promise? Robert put his hand over his heart. I promise. No matter what happens, I'm going to see this through. You're stuck with me now. Maya smiled, a small genuine smile. It felt strange on her face, like she had forgotten how. Thank you, she whispered, for finding me, for saving me. Robert's eyes got shiny with tears, but he blinked them away. You saved yourself, Maya. You survived. You held on. All I did was open a door. He stood up and walked toward the bedroom door. I'll leave this cracked open a little bit, okay? And I'm right down the hall if you need anything. Anything at all. Don't be afraid to wake me up. After Robert left, Maya lay in the darkness of her new room. The bed was so soft compared to that horrible mattress. The sheets smelled like detergent and fabric softener. Outside her window, she could hear normal night sounds. A dog barking somewhere. Car driving by. The wind rustling through the oak tree. Normal sounds. Safe sounds. She closed her eyes and waited for sleep to come, but her mind was racing. So much had happened in one day. She had gone from thinking she would die alone in that terrible house to lying in a comfortable bed in a real home. Felt like a dream. She was afraid to fall asleep because she might wake up and find out it was all just her imagination, that she was still trapped in that nightmare. But eventually exhaustion won. Maya's breathing slowed and deepened. She drifted off into sleep, and for the first time in months, she didn't have bad dreams. She dreamed instead of Grandma Betty, smiling and young, standing in a kitchen filled with golden light. In the dream, Grandma Betty said, "You are my sunshine, baby girl. Don't you ever forget that." And Maya, even in sleep, whispered back, "I won't, Grandma. I won't forget." Down the hall, Robert sat in his own bedroom, unable to sleep. His mind was spinning with everything that had happened. He kept thinking about Maya's face when he first saw her in that house. The fear and hopelessness in her eyes. He thought about the man who had run out yelling. About the chains the police had found in the basement. About how close Maya had come to something even worse than what she had already endured. He thought about the court hearing tomorrow morning. About all the paperwork and interviews and evaluations ahead. About the responsibility he had just taken on. Robert had built his life around his work. He had never married, never had children. He told himself he was too busy, that his company needed him. But the truth he rarely admitted even to himself, was that he was afraid. Afraid of failing people. Afraid of letting them down the way his father had let him down. It was easier to be alone, to not risk hurting anyone. But when he saw Maya in that house, something inside him had cracked open. All the walls he had built around his heart had suddenly seemed pointless. Here was a child who needed help, who needed someone to care, and he had the power to do something about it. How could he walk away from that? He pulled out his phone and started making a mental list of things he needed to do. Buy clothes for Maya. Stock the kitchen with food a child would eat. Find a good therapist. Enroll her in school once things settled down. Convert his home office into something more useful. Baby-proof the house or kid-proof it or whatever you called it. He realized he had no idea what he was doing. He had never taken care of a child before. What if he messed this up? What if he made things worse for Maya instead of better? But then he remembered the small smile on her face when he promised not to leave. That smile had been real. That smile had been hope. And hope was powerful. Hope could heal wounds that medicine couldn't touch. Robert made a decision right then. He would learn. He would ask for help when he needed it. He would make mistakes, probably lots of them, but he would keep trying. For Maya, she deserved someone who would keep trying. The house settled into quiet as the night grew deeper. In her room, Maya slept peacefully, her small body finally able to rest without fear. In his room, Robert eventually dozed off with his phone still in his hand, his mind full of plans and promises. Neither of them knew that across town, in a dark apartment, a phone was ringing. A man with a rough face and short beard, the man Maya knew as Dave, picked it up. On the other end, a voice spoke quickly and angrily. Dave listened, his face growing pale. "What do you mean the police found the house? What do you mean she's gone?" The voice on the other end shouted something. Dave hung up and stared at the wall. Everything was falling apart. The operation was compromised. And it was all because of one little girl who had survived when she shouldn't have. Dave grabbed his coat and his keys. He had to disappear, and fast. Morning came with soft sunlight streaming through Maya's window. She woke up confused for a moment, not recognizing where she was. Then she remembered. Robert, the hospital, the beautiful house. She sat up in bed and looked around the room, half expecting it all to disappear like a dream. But everything was still there. The blue walls, the clean floor, the window with white curtains gently moving in the breeze from the heating vent. It was real. She was really here. There was a soft knock on her door. "Maya, are you awake?" Robert's voice called gently. "Yes," she answered. Robert opened the door, already dressed in a suit and tie. "We have court this morning, remember? To make the temporary custody official. But first, let's get you some breakfast." They went downstairs together. Robert had apparently gone to the store very early because the kitchen now had cereal, milk, orange juice, and fresh fruit. I wasn't sure what you liked, he admitted. So I bought a little bit of everything. Maya ate a bowl of cereal with sliced bananas while Robert drank coffee and checked his phone nervously. He was worried about the court hearing, Maya could tell. But she wasn't worried. For the first time in a long time, she felt like things might actually work out. They drove to the courthouse together, and Ms. Walsh met them in the lobby. She had a thick folder of papers under her arm. The judge will see us in about 20 minutes, she said. This should be straightforward. The emergency custody is just temporary while we complete the full evaluation and look for any relatives Maya might have. They sat in the hallway on hard wooden benches, waiting. Other families passed by, some looking happy, others looking stressed and scared. Maya wondered what their stories were. Finally, a clerk called their names. They walked into a courtroom that was smaller than Maya expected. The judge was an older black woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She looked at Maya over her reading glasses. "Good morning, young lady. You must be Maya." Maya nodded shyly. The judge smiled. "My name is Judge Anderson. I've read your file and I have to say you are one brave girl." The hearing didn't take long. Ms. Walsh explained the situation. Robert answered questions about his home and his ability to care for Maya. The judge asked Maya if she felt safe with Robert, and Maya said yes immediately. Judge Anderson looked at the papers in front of her, then looked up at Robert with a serious expression. "Mr. Hayes, taking on a traumatized child is not easy. There will be difficult days ahead. Are you prepared for that?" Robert stood up straight. "Your Honor, I can't promise I'll be perfect. I've never done this before. But I can promise I'll try my best, and I'll never give up on her." Judge Anderson nodded slowly. "That's all any child really needs. Someone who won't give up." She signed the papers with a flourish. Emergency temporary custody is granted for 90 days, while the full investigation and evaluation proceed. Mr. Hayes, you'll work with Ms. Walsh to complete your foster parent certification. Maya, you'll meet with a therapist regularly. And we'll all be back here in 3 months to review the situation. She banged her gavel. Court is adjourned. Just like that, it was official. Maya felt a weight lift off her chest. 90 days. 3 months of safety. 3 months to figure things out. It wasn't forever, but it was something. It was hope. As they left the courthouse, Ms. Walsh pulled Robert aside. "The police have an update on the investigation," she said quietly. Maya couldn't hear everything, but she caught pieces. The man from the house had been identified. His name was Carl Morrison, and he had a criminal record. Dave, the man who had taken Maya, was still missing, but they had his real name now too. David Kruger. The police believed they were part of a larger operation that trafficked children. Maya's stomach turned. She had been so close to something horrible. But she had escaped. She had survived. Over the next few weeks, life began to develop a routine. Robert took time off work to help Maya settle in. They went shopping for clothes, and Maya picked out jeans and t-shirts and a warm winter coat with a fuzzy hood. They bought school supplies even though Maya wouldn't start school for another few weeks. Robert wanted her to have time to heal first. Maya started seeing a therapist named Dr. Patricia Coleman, a gentle woman with a warm smile who specialized in childhood trauma. At first, Maya didn't want to talk about what happened. It hurt too much. But Dr. Coleman was patient. She told Maya they could go as slow as she needed. Slowly, day by day, Maya began to heal. She started to laugh again. She started to play. Robert bought her art supplies, and Maya filled sketchbooks with drawings of butterflies and rainbows, just like she used to. Sometimes she drew darker things too, the house, the fear, the loneliness, and Dr. Coleman said that was good. That was how she processed. Robert learned to cook simple meals. They weren't fancy, but they were made with love. He learned to braid Maya's hair, though his first attempts were terrible and made Maya giggle. He learned to read bedtime stories with different voices for different characters. He learned to check for monsters under the bed and leave the hallway light on. He learned to be a parent. Ms. Walsh visited regularly, checking on everything. Each time, she seemed a little less skeptical and a little more impressed. Robert was doing well. Maya was thriving. The background checks came back clean. The home studies were positive. Everything was falling into place. 6 weeks after Robert found Maya, the police made a breakthrough. They arrested David Kruger trying to cross the border into Mexico. He was brought back and charged with kidnapping, child endangerment, and conspiracy. Under questioning, he gave up names. More arrests followed. The whole operation came crashing down. Carl Morrison was caught in another state, living under a false name. Dozens of other people were implicated. Detective Sarah Wu, who had been leading the investigation, came to Robert's house to update them. She sat in the living room with Maya and Robert and explained what they had learned. The operation had been targeting vulnerable children, kids in the system, kids whose disappearance might not be noticed right away. Maya had been one of many, but because Robert had found her, because he had called the police, the whole thing had unraveled. Other children had been found and rescued. Families had been reunited. "You saved more than just yourself, Maya," Detective Wu said. "You helped us save a lot of other kids too." Maya didn't feel like a hero. She just felt grateful to be alive, to be safe, to have found Robert. But maybe that was enough. Maybe surviving was its own kind of heroism. As fall turned to winter, Maya started school. She was nervous the first day, but Robert walked her to the building and promised to be there when school ended. Maya's teacher was named Mrs. Johnson, which made Maya smile because that was Grandma Betty's last name. Felt like a good sign. Making friends was hard at first. Maya was shy and quiet, but gradually other kids started to notice her artwork. She drew a picture of a butterfly that the teacher hung on the wall, and a girl named Emma asked if Maya could teach her to draw like that. Soon Maya had friends. Real friends. Emma, who loved art just like Maya. A boy named Tyler who was funny and made everyone laugh. A quiet girl named Sarah who liked to read and shared books with Maya. Life was becoming normal. Wonderfully, beautifully normal. The 90 days passed quickly. When they returned to court, Judge Anderson reviewed all the reports. The therapy notes, the school records, the home visits, Ms. Walsh's recommendations. Everything was positive. "Mr. Hayes," Judge Anderson said, "you've done an exceptional job. Maya is thriving in your care." She turned to Maya. "And you, young lady, have shown remarkable strength and resilience. I'm proud of you." The judge looked at the papers one more time, then up at Robert and Maya. "The investigation into Maya's family has found no living relatives. There's no one to claim custody. Mr. Hayes, you've completed your foster parent certification. The question now is, what happens next?" Robert took a deep breath. He had been thinking about this for weeks. He looked at Maya, who looked back at him with hope and love in her eyes. "Your Honor, I'd like to file for adoption. I want Maya to be my daughter. Permanently." Maya gasped. "Adoption. Forever family. Not temporary. Not just until something better came along. Forever." Judge Anderson smiled, a big genuine smile. "Well, that certainly simplifies things. Maya, how do you feel about that?" Maya couldn't speak. Tears were streaming down her face, but they were happy tears. She nodded frantically. Judge Anderson chuckled. "I think that's a yes. Very well. We'll begin adoption proceedings immediately. I don't see any reason why this shouldn't move forward smoothly. Congratulations to you both." 6 months later, on a warm spring day, the adoption was finalized. Maya Johnson became Maya Hayes. She stood in the courthouse wearing a new dress that Robert had let her pick out herself. It was yellow like sunshine. Judge Anderson signed the final papers and declared them officially father and daughter. Robert knelt down and hugged Maya tight. "You are my sunshine, baby girl," he whispered, using Grandma Betty's words. "Don't you ever forget that." Maya hugged him back with all her strength. "I won't, Dad. I promise I won't." They celebrated with a small party at home. Ms. Walsh came and Dr. Coleman and Detective Wu. Even Officer Martinez stopped by with a card. Maya's friends from school came too, filling the house with laughter and music. Maya stood in the middle of it all, looking around at the people who cared about her, and felt something she thought she'd never feel again. She felt loved. She felt like she belonged. She felt home. That night, after everyone had gone and the house was quiet again, Robert tucked Maya into bed just like he did every night. But tonight felt different. Tonight felt permanent. "Dad," Maya said as he turned to leave. "Yeah, sweetie?" Robert turned back. "Thank you for not giving up on me, for finding me in that house, for saving my life." Robert's eyes filled with tears. "Maya, you've got it backwards. You saved my life. Before I found you, I was just going through the motions. I had success and money, but I didn't have purpose. You gave me a reason to be better. You made me want to be the kind of person who deserves your trust. So thank you." Maya smiled and closed her eyes. As she drifted off to sleep, she thought about how far she had come. From that terrible rotting house where she thought she would die, to this beautiful room where she felt safe and loved. Life had taught her hard lessons about loss and pain, but it had also taught her about resilience and hope. It had taught her that even in the darkest moments, light could find you. Sometimes light came in the form of a billionaire in a black suit who happened to walk through the right door at the right time. Sometimes miracles looked like that. And as Maya slept peacefully in her room, and Robert sat downstairs feeling grateful for the unexpected blessing that had come into his life, neither of them knew that across town, prosecutors were using the evidence from their case to put away criminals who had hurt so many children. Maya's story, her survival, had sparked a change. New policies were being written. New safeguards were being put in place. The system that had failed to protect her was being reformed so it wouldn't fail others. One little girl who refused to give up had made a difference. She had survived. She had found her way home. And in doing so, she had helped light the way for others. Because that's what happens when people choose kindness. When they choose to see the invisible. When they choose to care. Small acts of compassion ripple outward, touching lives in ways we can never fully measure. Maya's story started with darkness, but it ended with light. And that light would continue to shine for years to come, warming not just her life, but the lives of everyone she touched. That's the power of survival. That's the power of love. That's the power of never giving up, no matter how dark the house, no matter how long the night. Because morning always comes, and with it, hope. Thank you for watching. If you found this story engaging, we invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective adds value to the conversation. To stay updated with future stories exploring themes of race, inequality, and the unexpected choices that shape lives, please consider subscribing to this channel. Your support helps us continue creating meaningful and thought-provoking content.